Here we go. Welcome to another episode of Hangry, Caveman. So today we got Tarik, a good friend of
Hi,
mine.
everyone.
Tarik, what would I say? A holistic lifestyle balance coach. General nice guy, and a lot of things resonate with me. So it's a great honor to have him on my show today. How are you doing,
Thanks.
buddy?
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah, it's great. Thanks for inviting me. It's really, really, really kind of you. And I think it's great what you're trying to do as well, you know, in the sense that you're trying to get people's opinions, because a lot of these kind of podcasts tend to also focus predominantly on people who are in, sort of become experts in something and have become in the public eye for something and have been recognized in their field for something on a public level, you know, so worldwide level, global level. But everybody, there's many people who still have, you know, great thoughts, great ideas, great opinions that need to share them as well. So I think what you're doing is really, really, really
That's the
great.
intention. I want to invite everyone from all different angles and have a platform for their opinion and get the idea out there.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
But the people I do invite do have something that resonate with me. So that's why I think this is why we're all friends on this channel.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a time of connection now where this is very, very important, where, you know, people's voices need to be heard, you know, their visions, their dreams. And one of the things that I do is I encourage people to use their visualization skills, because everything stems from visualization. You know, you can create and synthesize a lot of experiences, positive experiences, with your mind, you know. And if you can be very skilled at that and develop that art, then you can actually create a lot of health and well-being just by doing that. And the future of the world depends on our ability to visualize and share those visions, because someone else is doing that right now. And the system that we are part of right now has been the vision and visualization of others in the past. And you know, we can argue that it hasn't gone completely perfectly and as we want it to go. You know, not everybody's happy. Not everybody in the world can eat. Not everybody in the world has access to healthcare. You know, so the vision is I would say failing in lots of ways, in many ways. You know, so.
But the only things you can change is for the people who understand this concept of visualization and create a more positive and better universe as such, or a better environment that we can grow from. There's so much negative and so much bad things happening. If we keep dwelling on it, that's all we're going to ever think of.
Absolutely.
So in any situation, I mean, we kind of talked about this visualization, but in a more sports and competitive context, less so in this universal context. But it goes back to the same thing. If we don't have a plan and visualize that plan, nothing's going to change.
Exactly.
Will always remain the same.
Yes.
So yeah, I know you visualize a lot, even when you train. I mean,
absolutely,
training, right? Yeah. You coach.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's you know, training for me is an example. I mean, a little quick brief history. I was working in the NHS for 20 years. You know, so I started off in the NHS. So I was a registered nurse, and then I did my degree in pediatrics, and then I specialised in pediatrics and managed a pediatric ward at the end. But I worked through all kinds of disciplines of that, and I believe that has been pivotal in developing the foundation of my ability to be good at my purpose, which I feel this is what it's become now. I don't class my work as a job. It's not a job, you know. Everything is a byproduct of purpose. So the money I earn, I didn't go out looking for the role that I'm in now currently, where I'm looking after a financial institution in London, which is going really well. It's an international institution. It found me because I was connected to my purpose, and I just continue with my purpose. And I believe the universe, and I know it sounds, you know, abstract, but I can use this terminology with you, the energy around you and everything comes towards you, that law of attraction, which is also a principle of, it's one of the main principles of quantum physics. You know, what you consciously create in your mind is what you will attract to you. That's basically what the law of attraction is about. It's the first principle of quantum physics. So So I'm very much about, creating that, sort of sense of purpose with your life, because it adds substance to everything that you do. So I worked in the NHS. I loved what I did. It built an amazing foundation. I was able to see people at their most vulnerable, connect with people at their most vulnerable, and I've had people die in my arms. I mean, I've had all the myriad of experience that many people in the NHS have experienced who've worked there for long enough. And I believe that built the foundation of what made me good as a coach, so I was able then, the ability to connect with someone that they feel safe with you, that they feel that they can grow without being judged. And most people, like anybody, as a child or anything, your own memories as a child, I know my own weren't so good. But I remember also the little snippets of positivity that my father gave me at the time was like, wow, I really feel I can do anything, just to hear it. But I also know the other side, where my father was predominantly, you're not going to do this, you can't do this, you have to do this, and etc. And, unconscious parenting. And, he did the best he could as an unconscious parenting style, which, like most people, there's no template of parenting. So I basically, worked in the NHS for 20 years, lost, and then became disheartened with what I was doing for lots of reasons. I didn't believe so much in the medical model exclusively any longer. I began to introduce alternative practices in the hospital itself, like with yoga, breathing for asthmatics. I began to do some research in that, studied an asthma course for pediatrics. I started doing abdominal massage for chronic constipation instead of giving enemas, which was I felt was a form of rape, an invasion of human rights. When you have to force a child to have an enema by holding them down and inserting in a tube in their bottom, so I decided that. So I tried to introduce it, but obviously you're dealing with a medical model that's been ingrained in a particular practice for a very long time. So changes and evolution happens usually, quite slowly. It takes time. So that, coupled with the fact, we have 6 children, as you know, we've got a child who's severely autistic, and I felt my energies were being displaced in too much. The hospital was taking too much from me, and I felt I wasn't giving enough in other areas of my life, and I felt a little bit out of balance, which is a big thing, and which I advocate in my style of coaching, is balance, looking at your life and reflecting regularly. And then obviously I've been in the fitness world for a long, long time as well, 20, must be 20 when I came back from India. So I went traveling to India, which again, great to talk about if you want to, because that a pivotal time in my life, which I could share some interesting ideas that could maybe help others, and especially with isolation, because I did isolate myself for 3.5 months there. Yeah, that was good, actually. And then, so it must be when I was, 26 years in the fitness industry. But I kind of took the elements of what I learned in the foundation from the hospital and the medical profession, and my experiences with people in vulnerable states, amalgamated with my own experience as a parent, as a husband, 25 years now. And my experience and knowledge in the fitness industry that I learned, and then went into the experience of what is it like to train? What does training mean for me? And obviously in the beginning, as a young guy, it was very much, I was quite insecure. I was a small, skinny guy, lanky and skinny. And I wanted to get a bit bigger and stronger, which was the natural evolution for me, because I didn't have a guide. I didn't have a mentor myself at the time. And that's something that I'd say has been lacking for quite a while. I went down the regular pathway that most people go through, which is you follow the narrative of society, or whatever it is. But I was always a little bit, I suppose, thinking a little bit outside the box with regarding there's more than this. I feel more than this. I feel life is not just this physical experience. There's more to it than that. And so when I started doing training, and I think this is when the India experience really connected me, because when I was in India, I developed a lot of depth. I unloaded a lot of emotional baggage, when I was there. It was just one of these things. I didn't go out looking for it again. It found me, and I just went with it. So sometimes if something finds you, it presents you with an opportunity and an environment, even though it's challenging and harsh, and you think, I don't think I really want to do this because it's going to be painful and it's going to involve suffering, which it did. I'm going to let go of fear and pursue it, and that's what I did. I ended up living in I call it jungle, but it was like a dense forest for 3.5 months on my own. And I spent 6 days a week purely on my own. And then 1 day a week, I was desperate to see people. So I would go and get down to the beach. This was in Goa, by the way. So I went into the mainland of Goa, into a place called Valpoi, Copperden. It's a beautiful little environment. And then I would go to the coast on that 7th day and spend time with people. And then after I had that connection, I was desperate just to leave. I'd disappear early in the morning and then go back to my little place. There I explored a lot of things and discovered a lot of things about myself. What it means to be me and human, and where am I? And it does, when you spend time on your own like that, especially in an environment where you feel you could be attacked and harmed. And our first 2 or 3 days was like terror, literally no sleep and terror. And I had to literally surrender. It was something happened on that last day where I just surrendered, and I didn't feel the fear any longer. I felt connected to my environment. And then when you begin to connect your environment and embrace it fully, something begins to happen. You become part of it, that you're no longer afraid, because fear doesn't exist like that in that world. When you embed yourself and embrace life, fear disappears because you connect to something that's deeper, that's binding all things together. And that's where I then went on a journey of lots of writing, I built a gym in the jungle, with like bamboo and, rocks in bags. And, I just literally, had my guitar, had my drums. I was learning to play the flute. I just wrote and explored and practiced exercises and practiced kendo and doing rituals. And I found myself naturally bathing, because I live by a natural spring that was a tree that had been uprooted, and the vines and the roots were so big and thick, they were holding the tree up. But underneath it was just flowing spring natural water. And I just had this natural ritual of cleansing myself every day, a certain amount of buckets of water I would use only, and I had a special day where I'd only use less. I don't know why I did that. Again, it's like this whole thing of there's a natural symbiosis with your environment where you just flow and everything's flowing and it feels right. And I felt amazing. I have to say, Kevin, it was like I felt the best I'd ever felt in my entire life in that experience. But I knew I couldn't be in that experience forever. And I did toy with that. And I think when I had that experience, then when I went in, let's then relate that to the gym. When I then came back and got into the fitness industry and got back into training, because I was training from, say, the age of 20, I started. But I always played sports all my life. Then when I got into the gym after learning and training and studying and training with WABA qualifications I did at the time. Alan Runacres was a guy who still runs WABA qualifications, and he was a great guy. Actually, he was a great mentor, because there was an element of me that was, do I really want to do this? But he was knocking on my door, picking me up, taking me to the course every day. And then I got involved with the whole organization and started invigilating, teaching on their courses as well. And he was actually pivotal for me to get into the fitness industry. But when I did then go into the gym, I felt that when I was training, it was a different experience to when I was younger, lifting heavy weights and just thinking about getting big. I wanted the experience of training. When I hold a weight, it was an extension of me rather than it's a separate weight that I'm battling against that I have to push away from me, as an example. It was something that was part of me, that I was connecting with it because it was going to help me in some way. So I wanted to experience the feeling and the flow of it. So I would be very mindful. It was like a meditation, the mindfulness. And I know that you connect with that because, I've seen you train many times, and I connected with you first time I was used to see you train because you were very creative, which I love. I love to see people creative like that in the gym because I resonate with that. So naturally always resonates people who are similar to you. And you know what I'm talking about when I say these things. So but when you watch people, as you know, in the gym, being in the industry yourself, it's a very mechanical process. They're doing it for a reason, a bit like what I was talking about: purpose, job, career. When they did the research into that, people who regard their work as a job, that is basically the pay packet at the end, or a career where it's the pay packet and some kind of recognition in the industry that they're in, don't tend to really don't go too far in the job. They may stay in the job. They may not get huge amounts of satisfaction in the long term. They get to a certain level, but it can be quite superficial to a point. It's done for almost a mechanical purpose and a superficial purpose. But people who regard their work as a purpose, as I said earlier, everything becomes a byproduct. It's just the experience and the feeling that they're absorbed and immersed in it. And I feel it's the same thing. When people are mechanically working in the gym, they're doing it because they just want to get the body that looks good. They're doing it because they want to say, right, I've done 4 times a week training and I'm doing the right things to stop myself from getting ill. But the people who love it and absorb themselves in it, immerse themselves in it, get more from it. It's just a different experience.
It's hard. We understand there's a point where we just click, everything comes into place. When you realize, okay, this standard programming is structurally programmed.
Yeah.
There's time and places for it. But there's also time where your body needs to be flowing, like what you said.
Yeah.
You can't lock your body down. There's certain things you just feel, okay, today I really don't need to lift big weights. I just want to feel this weight, rather than making a connection to how to move better with the weights. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. No. But I think it's, and I thought about that many times, and I think, all the clients I look after, and some have got it and some get it in moments, and some have, but a lot still, even though I've been coaching them for a long time, they flit in and out of it. So it's mainly momentary, but not. And so I thought, the reason for that, I feel, is because it's about who you are, what comes from you from within. My mindset is like that. So no matter whatever I experience in my life, I always found myself like that. So when I experimented, when I was much younger, and wherever it is I took, and I've tried, say, for example, psychedelics when I was much younger, in my early 20s, experimental. I've tried microdosing with marijuana and things like that when I was very much younger for creative purposes, because, I played music and I guitar and percussion, and I was drawing and I was writing. Again, I would always have spiritual, it would draw me into a spiritual mindset, is what I call a spiritual. I mean that spiritual is something that connects you to something beyond your ego. I feel that's what the spiritual is. So it's separating you from the ego, and you're connected to something else that connects everything together, rather than, so sometimes spiritual can get a bad name, a bad rap in the media.
People not understanding what
exactly.
you or I or somebody else mean by spiritual.
Yeah, things can be taken out of context, like many things. So I just wanted to clarify what I meant by that. And so I think unless for that experience to happen in the gym, you almost need to begin to live your life and find ways of looking at the other areas of your life. Hence why I then started looking and wanting people to develop the other sides of themselves, read these books and explore this book and practice the things about it, try bringing out your creative sides, start visualizing, begin to do these amazing gifts that we've been given, that we have. And then you find that it changes the environment within yourself. I think that you were talking about environment earlier. I think it changes the environment within your own self. And that environment then is then conducive to all kinds of things. You've built the environment, so the outcome becomes different. Yeah. And I think I don't know if you read much about epigenetics. Epigenetics is kind of a new science. It's like started really in the 90s, but it's medical doctors now. So for example, I come from a medical background of people. My father was a doctor, my brother's a doctor, so that era of medicine, they were taught a certain model of medical model. It doesn't involve epigenetics, because epigenetics works in a very different way. Epigenetics is all about your interpretation of the environment actually creates the outcome, which is actually very, very relevant to what's happening at the moment and what happens all the time. If you are if you're exposed to fear all the time, there's a certain biochemical process that happens in your body that responds to fear. So you go into that fight or flight response, adaptive immunological response, where obviously you go into fight and flight, your immune system gets suppressed, your innate immune system gets suppressed, because all your energy is required to deal with the external environment, because that's important. And so when you then have to deal with things innately as well, this is where this is important. When you then have to deal with things innately, but on the outside you're constantly scared, and you're constantly in this constant, and it's not like your life is at stake, but directly, it's indirect fear. So it's indirect stimulation of your stress response. So we're told on the news, every time you put the news, it tells you how many people have died, how many people have got it. We're still in lockdown. Economy is failing. People are worried about everything. So, and we've had this. This isn't actually new in some ways. This is just a little bit more aggressive than what we've been used to. We've been used to a lot of fear. A lot of people are in fear all the time, and you can turn on the news. It's pretty much bad news most of the time. There's been a bombing. There's been this. There's been that. There's been so people are afraid to walk out at night. Most people wouldn't walk down certain areas at night or feel that sense of fear. And so if you're constantly in fear, and we know that fear creates a cytokine response, it creates a cortisol response, then your immune system is constantly being battered all the time. So battling, I think, dealing with fear is probably one of the most powerful things that we can do. And ultimately, when I know this firsthand from working in the hospital, is fear of death. Fear of death is the big one. So fear of death is the ultimate fear for humans, and we're very much attached to our lives and everything to do with our lives. And I feel, again, this has been a great opportunity in a lot of people, where people are, there's people affected in different ways. Don't get me wrong. There's people who are, yes, there's people dying. And I know this because I've seen it firsthand. And there's people affected economically by this scenario, and there's going to be a lot more people affected economically the more this goes on, which is, we're very, we're fortunate that we're able to do something, which is important, why we should share, like we're doing now, share positivity and the visualization is very powerful. By visualizing and praying or meditating towards a positive intent or a positive object, an object or a person, is actually very powerful. That reaches that person and creates a very powerful global positive vibration. Now, that can be proven with quantum physics and science and quantum mechanics. So it's not, but we've just not been told for years. We've not been taught. We haven't had a session at school that talks about use prayer and visualization, all these things all the time, because it's very powerful and does create a positive energy to wherever you direct it. We're not told that. Yeah. So I think, it's important to, going back to talking about the environment, creating a positive environment in your mind is one of the most essential things for your health in multiple ways, emotionally, psychologically, physically, and spiritually. So I really think that's the way forward in life for a lot of for the health and well-being world is creating people to begin to use their skills of visualization, even if they're in fear, even if they're in torment, if they're in all kinds of mentally impaired states, sort of out of balance mental health states. Begin in whatever way and means that they can, that they're able to at the time. Just as whatever means you start, whatever ability you have to begin a squat, you can start a squat in some way. We can start you off somehow. And you've had clients that can't hinge, that can't squat, and you've had to teach them purely from scratch. And now they can hinge, they can squat, they can do all those things. So the same with tackling spiritual health, emotional health, psychological health. Same. You have to find that point where you start and accept that's where your starting point is, but learn to move from there. And then lots of positivity to feed the encouragement to allow that person to grow. I think that's the way in health and well-being.
That's the thing, is visualizing. I mean, we practice visualization a lot. How would you start with somebody who's never visualized before?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very.
I mean, without knowing, they've always visualized, but as a practice, how would you?
Initially, what I do with people who are very sort of completely new. That's obviously, remember, all people. The same. Let's go back to that whole squad. All people, all children. There's there's no cross-cultural differences here. Could sit in deep squat across the whole world when they're about 12 months, 13 months, 14 months. All children around the world can do that, unless there is an inherent issue there, musculoskeletal, biomechanical issue that they're innately born with. So we all had it, but somewhere along the line, it's been lost, due to the design of the environment around us. Okay?
Yeah.
Absolutely the same goes for visualization and imagination. As children, one of the reasons why I worked in pediatrics, and I specifically chose pediatrics as my speciality at the end, is because I love being around children, because they keep that awake, in me.
Imagination.
Because I can go into all kinds of places. And that's why I love, with my son Byron, he still has that. He's still very childlike, even though he's 18 years old, nearly 19. But he can use his imagination. It's beautiful, And so the fact that they've had it means there's a memory, like an imaginative memory, there that you can tap into. But what it needs is a little bit of guidance. So I do guided meditation. So all people, when I start with, I coach people, they don't go straight in the gym. I always take them into the studio first. So we always learn, right, let's connect with your body. Let you understand your own body. So connect with your body. Let's connect with your breathing. Let's connect with what your mind is able to now. Let's create a union between the mind, the body, and the breathing together, which is almost like a template for what is utilized in yoga. Yoga means union. So I teach everybody has to learn some form of yoga or yoga principles and apply it into their life. So with yoga, union ultimately should culminate into the union with what they call the Atman, which is the universal God energy, divine energy. But let's start with the very, very beginning. Let's connect the mind, the body, and the breathing, because those three things you're using all the time, but you're using them, all three of them, usually unconsciously. Yes, there's unconscious use and there's conscious use. So I get them to consciously be aware of their body. So by teaching them, right, let's work on the feet, let's work on the toes, let's work on gripping, 22, 23 muscles in the feet. We still need to learn how to grip. But obviously the mind has run away with its technological evolution, that it's designing a world not conducive to a body that's still an animal. So we've created...
Always forget about breathing, how important breathing is with all the movements.
Absolutely.
I've always trying to teach them breathing and put the emphasis on breathing when we train.
Absolutely.
Like you said, people forget how your whole body's one, and the relationship between movement and breathing. Absolutely.
A breath almost is like you can use it as like the bridge. It's like the cord that binds the mind and the body. It connects them. So that's how I like to use breathing. So when there's something in yoga called Ujjai Breathing. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's the fire breath. So you create a sound. So it's from the nasopharynx, but it creates that sound. And what it does, if you actually do a practice with that, with just simple movements, is that it almost gives form to the breath. And for a lot of people, they need that. They need that. They need a tangible vision to be able to follow, to connect initially. So with people, going back to your question, is I give people a guided meditation. I teach them with the body. Then at we finish with, let's see what your breathing's like. Let's learn to breathe from the diaphragm. Let's learn to breathe from the intercostals. Let's learn to breathe from the back, where the lungs mainly are. Let's breathe from those areas, and then let's see what your mind is doing. Now, in the other thing about meditation, and I know you practice meditation yourself, and maybe you still practice meditation?
Yeah, I have to at the moment, definitely.
Yeah. Well, the thing with meditation, which I find interesting, is that I think it's misinterpreted slightly in the West. I think if you look at the 8-limb path of yoga, what comes before meditation is concentration. And if you actually think about what meditation really it becomes in the West initially, for a very distracted mind, it's just learning the ability to concentrate. Yeah. So let's just focus on the breath and just follow the breath. That's actually a form of concentration. So then I think it's important to get the mind to learn to concentrate first, yeah, and then let it learn to observe without being distracted. Yeah, observe without being engaged in the emotional engagement into the thoughts, which is very, very important skill. And I think that's what a lot of people get wrong in meditation. They try and think, I've got to just switch my mind off. Well, that's impossible because it's constantly on. Yeah,
it's similar to what I say. It's always centering yourself.
Yeah,
centering. So all these kites of thought, you're just winding them in and pulling them back into one single point.
Yeah,
you can, I don't know, dissect them and back into folders that you need to be in your mind, in your brain. Everything all comes back into here, into your diaphragm. Coming back here, and then you can start filing all your, I don't know, potential life problems, and then file it into things, and then okay, this is where all the other things need to go now. And then you can structure your active meditation around it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a good point, because I think it's looking at meditation from different angles. And I think it's a very broad term. It's used very broadly. Not a lot of people really understand it. But actually there's many elements to it. And it's almost like a spectrum in itself, where there are different forms, different formats. Like if you look at yoga now, yoga was always just yoga. Now there's so many styles of yoga. You know, it's crazy, but it's just people's interpretations of the original text. So long as the essence is there, then it's your own interpretation, which is your own experience of the texts. So the same with meditation. You can do an active meditation. You can do, as you say, that centering into the core and, like, you know, as a kite, and it's a nice analogy. Or a key one, I think, is to observe without being emotionally. It's called dispassionate observation. It's one of the first principles in yoga, in the Yoga Sutras. So you dispassionately observe. Dispassionate means not getting emotionally involved. So no matter what thoughts go through your mind, and they obviously multiple thoughts will go through your mind, but you just observe them. So you don't involve yourself. As soon as you involve, I've got to pay this bill. You know, I've got to buy a birthday present for my wife, or, you know. And as soon as you go, oh, I know what I'm going to get her for her birthday. Yeah. As soon as you do that, it's come to life. It's taken you away, and you've entered into you've literally opened a different door, and you've jumped through. So you've gone away from the centering, and you've gone into getting involved with that. So it's about learning to say, well, look, I've got the thoughts going through my mind, but I'm just going to look at them and observe them rather than get involved with them. I can get involved with them later, but I need to be able to practice, at least get some relief from just understanding that they are just thoughts. There's just energy flowing. Yeah. I'm not going to give them energy. Yeah. I don't want to feed them any more energy, and I don't want them to take any more of my energy, because I'm trying to do this to build more energy and get relief and build my energy back up. I'm not trying to give more energy away. So that's how I try and look at it. So again, I teach people by giving them a guided meditation. So I'll go through the whole body, and I'll get them to focus on their breathing. I'll get them to focus on their toes. We'll work through the whole body. For some people, it's short. For some people, we'll then practice and developing into a longer practice. So once you give them the guidance in the beginning, then you can send them away to go off and do it. Maybe they need that guidance for a period of time, and then they're independent. And if again, like that applies to everybody with everything. When you really want it, you're going to do it. Yeah. If you want to give up drinking, you're going to give up drinking when you're ready. If you're going to give up smoking, you're going to give up smoking when you're ready. If you want to start training, you're going to start training when you're ready. No matter, you can keep encouraging, but again, encourage. And I don't know how you feel about this. It'd be interesting to get your perspective on this. I don't have expectation. Yeah. And I don't put that, they don't know that. Yeah. But I don't have expectation of my clients. I don't like to call them clients either. The people that I help and try and help in my life, because that was going only to take more energy from me. Yeah. And I have multiple people that need me to be energetic all the time. and have energy to give them. So for me to have expectation is only going to draw me into a very depleted state, because I'm going to be disappointed a lot of the time.
I'm still in between that. I still have when I design my programs, I still have an expectation where they should be. And like you said, it does take the energy away from you, because what people don't understand is, when they're not in this industry, what you mean by that expectation is how you perceive and how you see where they will be in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months.
Yeah.
And when they don't reach it, you as a coach, you self-doubt. And then you think, okay, is it me, or is it the program, or is it the athlete, or is it the client, or the friends that you're working and helping? And that draws into your mindset, into a working mindset. You're always thinking, okay, what could I change? What could I make them do to make them improve in improvements? Energy, food, training program, just tiny little things. I understand what you mean by that, because when I'm going home on the street, that's all I'm thinking. Okay, what can we make Mr. X do today or tomorrow or next session that we have together to make them have that little bit more? It does take the energy away from you.
It does. And so in a sense, though, what you're saying, can you see how you're putting it back to yourself, where you're thinking, what can I do? Yeah. But actually, it doesn't boil down to that. And that's what I've realized.
It takes from both parties.
But the way to look at it is that when a client comes to us, or a person comes to us needing help, this is again just my perception. As I said, this is a sense of purpose rather than a job. So I'm always ready to deliver a message. And the thing I've made the realization, Kevin, which has been actually profound for me in lots of ways, is that when you reach that sense of purpose with your life, that the sense of purpose doesn't necessarily relate to the job. Oh, I've got a job that is stereotypically a job of purpose, like I worked as a nurse, or there's a doctor, or there's a teacher. They're good vocational jobs that help people, but you get teachers, nurses who aren't really, sort of engaged in their job and just see it as a job still. I've seen those people too. So, but when you reach that sense of purpose, you understand that you're actually a messenger, that things are happening through you rather than they're happening from you or to you. So when we go through the victim phase, everything's happening to me, it's all happening to me, and why is life treating me like this? And you take it all very badly and very personally, and that will again deplete your energy. When things are happening from you, all right, I achieved this, I did that, which is very, very much in a lot of industries in the world, especially in the fitness industry, sports industry, all of those, entertainment industry. It's very much judged about your performance. Everything is judged in your performance. This is a great coach. He's an amazing coach. And so all of a sudden there's a huge pressure that comes with that. And again, then what will happen is it will send you very deep into the ego, acting from an egoic place, where I've got to constantly keep achieving. Otherwise, I'm going to be regarded as something wrong with what I'm doing or this. Now, when you have a sense of purpose, it's the way you live your life is embedded, is natural, it's flowing. You naturally will do the right things to keep your energy levels high, but you understand you'll still keep learning, you'll still keep doing those things, but with the purpose of, I'm doing it as a messenger so I can keep delivering this message that is happening through me. Because I don't actually believe that, I believe ideas and everything exist in the ether all the time. And we just resonate with them. And you become a vessel and it flows through you. It's not your message. It's not my message.
It's when you're ready, message, and the knowledge will come.
Yeah. How many times have you been in a situation when you're talking to someone, they've come to you for, they're in a troubled state, and you didn't know that they were in a troubled state, you've been very spontaneous, and you've just relaxed, and all of a sudden you've been able to listen correctly, you've been able to say a few words or the right things at the time, and the energy is lifted. You don't know where that information came from, but it just happened to flow through you at that time because you were open and ready. And I really feel that our purpose as coaches or messengers, which we all have, no matter who we are, even people that come to us for help, messages in their own way.
Yeah.
Then we just remain open and the messages flow through us. So the expectation is not yours. No longer, it's not an egoic state. It's no longer me seeking to be, oh, I'm a great coach or I'm a great this. No, I'm just being myself. I'm leading by example. I'm there for you all the time. I'm there to listen to you. I'm there to be compassionate. I'm there to be non-judgmental. And then if you're not getting the results that you want, you have to look within yourself about why you're not getting the results. And I'm not talking about you, the person that comes to you. Yeah. So it actually lies more with them. And eventually you'll find that they go, boom, I want this. And I'm going to do everything I can to get this. Yeah. We're just the vessels of transportation of information, knowledge, non-judgment, compassion, encouragement. I really believe that's all our role needs to be. So that's why I say then once I do all those things and I can fulfill those things, I don't have any expectation. The expectation then lies with the other person.
It's hard. It is a very hard thing to go around, having no expectation for yourself and your client or your athlete.
Absolutely.
It's a very hard thing to do for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I understand that. And this is where I think it's, if we take then look at the world of sports and athleticism, yeah, and I don't believe in that world. You know, I don't believe that world is actually a positive industry for the individuals in it. It's very egoic. It's all about the ego. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of energy away from others that could benefit from that energy. And so once you've created and you've separated individuals and they're special in the world. Yeah. And we can talk about this from the perspective of what Alex was talking about, the 1%, or David Icke talks about the 1%, the elite. But we do the same with the athletes. We do the same with the footballers and the sports people. We put them on a pedestal. They're the ones, the best chefs in the world, the best sportsmen in the world. I mean, come on. When I've been just watching a program about, Yemen and Gaza and 3 billion people starving in the world before the coronavirus. And these people are just queuing up to get a bottle of processed maize oil and some flour, and that's going to feed their family for the next couple of weeks. Yeah, when we're talking about that, and we're talking about footballers not wanting to take a pay cut, yeah, and that's how they're paying £200,000 a week. I just don't feel that as soon as we go out of balance with the harmony of the planet and nature and everything else, and we've created industries that are out of balance with nature and the world, then you're going to get things that are out of balance. Yeah, you're going to get the egoic state. That you're going to get, I need to perform. Kevin, I need you to get me to perform. I need to run quicker than 9.58 seconds. Who cares if people run 9.58 seconds or not? How is that doing anything really to help the world where it's in the dire strait?
It's all the perception of the person.
It's all perception. And that's what I'm saying about the visualization. So one of the things, all right, so for the company I look after, every day I send them a message. It's a philosophical message with a practical application. Yeah. So they all have a positive philosophical message with a practical application. A workout, which I do live with them at 12 o'clock. And then a relaxation, which is a visualization exercise. So one of the things I wrote last week is about visualizing the world for the future. So our current state, our current world has been visualized and created from past thoughts. Yeah. Now there's people right now visualizing and creating, usually the same people that have been, or the ancestors of the people that started it, that have created, the world as it is. Yeah. Now they think, well, look, this model's working for me. We're fine. We're doing great. And you've got that. You've got people like Madonna posting pictures of her in a bath of rose petals. And look, don't worry, lockdown's okay. It's fine. And so it's, you've got that side of it where these people are happy. They're okay. There's a group of people that are okay, who are the ones that tend to be designing the future for us again, and our children and our grandchildren and our great grandchildren, etc. If we're happy, we just carry on. Let them do it. So if we don't visualize and share the visions like we're talking now, and look, I'm not saying that I know the solution to fixing the problem in the world. I'm not convinced that this and this is me being really out there and just putting how I feel, because we can talk about free speech. Yeah, there's a freedom of speech, and there's an imprisonment in what you say, because once you say it, you've imprisoned yourself in this concept. But I'm very open to people, chatting and saying, look, Tarik, I don't believe in what you're saying, and I want to give you my perception. And remember, this is just my perception. It's just I'm creating my own world. Is that this world, the freedom can only happen if the mass majority begin to visualize a utopic world of positive, where there is no hunger, that we don't need nuclear war and nuclear weapons and threats, even if it's acted on the argument is a deterrent against terrorism. And I mean, that's another topic, I don't want to delve too much into that. So it's, unless the majority are thinking the same way and sharing that and doing something together to build that, then it's just going to be, people are going to think, well, I want it to be like this, but unless there's enough of us wanting to do it, and there's people who are thinkers, there's people who are philosophers, there's people who are ideas people, and there's people who are doers and can get this stuff done. They'll take that idea and they'll build it and fix it. We all have our skill sets, and it needs the combination of all of those to work together to create the future. Now, they've got their little setup. They've got the scientists, their own scientists, very secretive. They only tell us after their secrecy laws. They've got secrecy laws. They don't have to tell us anything for 30 to 50 years. And we don't have to know anything what's going on. So what we experience now actually could be something they designed 30, 40 years ago. Yeah. So they're doing their thing and they're building it because it's working for them. But it's definitely not working for the majority of people on the planet. You can't have 3 billion people on the planet in abject poverty, starving. You can't. And now with coronavirus, that figure is going to increase exponentially. So
we always know there's something not right in the society that we all live in.
Yeah.
But then when you're saying, the famine, the nuclear weapons, I can't imagine a world. I'm being truthful. I can't imagine a world without nuclear weapons. I can't imagine a world without famine. I can't imagine without poverty. Because we're so used to being fed this is normality. This is what needs to be for this world to turn. So for this world to change, for this mindset to change, we really have to emphasize on this, how we're going to do this as a human race to erase this poverty and this, I don't even know what we'd call it, this weaponize of nuclear.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is yes, and it seems like an impossible task for us, because it's not been our life's work. We don't really know the ins and outs, the details of how to fix it, how it was started in the first place. I mean, there's lots of gaps. We teach children history, but there's a lot of gaps in history. We're going from like World War. We may do the French Revolution, but we're in England. We'll talk about the French Revolution, and we're in. Why can't we go way back? Why can't we go back to Sumeria, where is the first civilization? Because actually, money, debt, all of those things started, and the financial all started then. And there's some, again, maybe for another time. The Sumerian civilization and their interpretation of they've got their own creation story. I don't know if you know of this, but they have their own creation story, which far obviously precedes. We're talking about 4000 BC. It's called the Enuma Elish. It's their creation story, which far obviously precedes the Bible. Okay. But there's very strong similarities. You may then argue that maybe some of these things have filtered through over the years, thousands of years, towards that. But we should be studying Sumeria. We should be studying how we first arrived on. Why are we here? This is key questions that are still unanswered. We're only given.
We briefly go into this subject. I mean.
Yeah, if you want to. I mean, just to finalize on that last point, though, just so we don't leave any gaps, is that, as I said, I don't know the answer to fixing the problems of the world. What you're saying about famine, about you can't imagine a world without nuclear weapons, etc. One is you haven't been in a nuclear war. You haven't been the victim of a nuclear fallout. You haven't been the victim of famine. What's happened to us as humans, we've been desensitized by the media, by just having this bubble, giving your own little problems to work on.
Yeah.
And on TV, flashes from time to time, right, famine, these people are dying, these people are being bombed, there's been a nuclear eruption here.
That's exactly it.
We've been desensitized. Yeah, we've desensitized. Yeah. These people who are experiencing the traumas of it all are traumatized. Yeah, they're not they're desensitized in a deep way. We're desensitized in a very superficial way, where we just become bystanders, that we don't really know. It's going on somewhere in the world, but we're not directly affected. So, what can we do anyway? It's that kind of attitude, which is wrong. And I'm part of that in some ways. And I try lead by example within my own little environment. And I've got my 6 children. I'm trying to teach them. And again, I'm doing the best I can. It's good enough parenting, because you're no longer bringing up the children on your own unless you live with them all the time and educate them properly. I'll give you a great film recommendation on that kind of scenario. It's a film called Captain Fantastic with Viggo Mortensen. It's about a guy who goes and decides, he and his wife initially start to take their children away from modern civilization and modern education and the modern way of doing things. And they go and live in the woods, and they build their own environment. He teaches them how to hunt. He educates them on a very deep level, so they understand what they're reading, and they, rather than just superficially regurgitating knowledge that they've just read, like just parrot fashion. So it's a very interesting film. It's a very, very interesting film. It's very touching for me, because there's a part of me that can really connect with him, even though I didn't do it the way they did it. But he decided to completely immerse himself in the bringing up of his children, rather than, my children have gone to school, they've been privileged. I managed to send them to a private school as well. So I wanted to control a little bit more, of what they're exposed to. And I felt I needed that with my boys, because they would have been quite distracted. So they needed a bit more nurturing. So I was fortunate if I was able to do that. And so I then as a result of that, I let go of the reins of how I wanted to teach. When they were 5 and all the mystical, magical things I was teaching them, as soon as they went to school, I was working. And then when I started in London, the magical, mystical things that I wanted to teach them and things that we talk about now begin to fade. And they, as much as I still try and keep reinforcing it, they're getting so many more other influences as well. So
already ingrained in the head.
It's ingrained. It's a foundation. Yeah, there's a memory there, and exactly. And I think that's one of the things I did. I did it for the fact that I knew it would be a foundation that eventually in the future would be triggered again. Yeah. Because once you then let go of the reins, you have to, when they go to school, you're no longer solely bringing up your children. You'll bring up your children with. And as soon as you introduce phones and technology and the internet, then you're bringing up your children with the rest of the world, basically. Yeah. So that's what happens. And children, the more you leave them.
Grain, that seed you planted, it's more important than anything they will learn in life. That's already set up for their search for their own knowledge in the future.
Yeah. It needs to, and again, that expectation of they have to activate it themselves. It has to be the time when they go, well, I'm going down to my own path of self-discovery, find my purpose, be a vessel to channel energy to be able to help others. Which is, what else other purpose is there to life? Is it really about self-satisfaction and just fulfilling your senses? We've all done that. It's been good for a short period of time, but there's no longevity in it. And it doesn't really help long-term, and there's no ripple effect with it in a positive way. So you ultimately learn as you get older, I think, as well, that, it's about helping others. Everything you learn, everything you do, what purpose is there for it unless it's there to help others, as well. So I know it sounds.
I definitely get you on this.
I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that is our purpose here.
The purpose, it's that seed. We can't make them do it.
No.
They have to find it. But once you planted that seed, hopefully sometime in their own lifetime, that seed will grow. They'll spark that seed. That seed will somehow just, you know what, that time Kev said something. Why did he say that? And that they'd experienced something like that makes sense.
Exactly. And that's all you can do. But it's hard, and it's actually harder with your own children than it is when you're dealing with helping people in the job that you're in, or whatever work that you're doing, is because if you're a coach, for example, we're talking about the expectation thing in the past, because you're with them all the time, your children, you think, well, I want you to do this because this is going to work. Just do it, do it. And then the expectation then is much stronger. Yeah. And part of that, because the emotional connection as well is like, there's that emotional investment and connection. It's much harder with your own children. It's very hard to then go, do you know what? This is it. I'm leading by example. And I've tried to do this with, my wife and I were talking about this. To be able to let go, because she finds it very hard to let go. I said, let them go and let them, you just lead by example, give them the knowledge, and then let them experience. She's very much, no, you've got to stop them from suffering. I said, no, some suffering is necessary. Certain levels of suffering is necessary to grow, but there's unnecessary suffering, like what we were talking about, people dying in the world of starvation and famine, people dying of nuclear war, people in Gaza being bombed every day. There's unnecessary suffering, and there's necessary suffering to grow as a human being. You just have to have the wisdom to differentiate between the two.
I mean, that's life experience. I mean, we're in the first world. We're not talking. We have never had to go to war. We never had to experience that. Our problem is generally first world problems.
Absolutely.
And all the problems that we've had, or I have, I'm going to talk about myself, made me who I am today. And all the experience, same as everyone, I suppose, what they experience in life brings them to who they are today, and how I coach, why I'm in this industry.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go into a little bit more spiritual level, I mean, all the stars and moon align, and this is the path it's taken.
Absolutely.
And when you sit there, something just clicks, and you just realize, oh, all them things why I failed and why it didn't happen back then when I was X, Y, and Z years old.
Yeah.
It brings me here. This is why I'm in this position to help others who could be experiencing the same thing, or have the knowledge to help that next person who's going to be in line of that same situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's weird. It's once where everything lines up, it just makes so much perfect sense. Everything.
Yeah, it's effortless as well. When it lines up, you're not expecting it. You're not sitting there with paper and pen and planning. There's none of that happens. It just happens.
It just happens.
Yeah. But because you're not thinking about it, because it's not your desire. As soon as I start thinking, all right, I need to make more money. Yeah. It doesn't work. That doesn't work for me. I don't think about that. I think, right, I'm just focused on what I'm doing. And all of a sudden, a new opportunity comes. Someone says, oh, I want you to do this, or I really like what you're doing. That's what basically happened with me coming into the city. I wasn't looking for it. I was training in the same gym that the CEO of the company I look after, Nick, great friend of mine, who he then stopped my wife and said, oh, I've seen because we lived in the same town, and because we've got a big family, everybody kind of knew us. It was like a small town. And he said, I've seen your husband training in the gym, and I like the way he trains. Do you think he would train me? I don't know if he trains people or not. And that's how we met. So I was looking for it. And then he asked me spontaneously, again, not looking for it, where he said to me, and I'd left the hospital actually, and I had 6 months. I didn't tell him I was training Nick. I'd left the hospital, but I didn't say anything to Nick. And I said, and we had my wife and I then, because I just literally spontaneously went, I'm not coming back to the hospital anymore. I was very spontaneous, which people could have thought, this is crazy, it's irrational, it's irresponsible. But I just physically felt that powerful urge that I cannot do this any longer. Yeah. We had 6 months of real hardship of, no money at all. And, the whole cliche of eating one meal a day because I have to feed the kids. We have 6 kids. We really went through a tough time. But 6 months down the line, and everyone's pushing me to go back to the hospital. And I was like, I'm not going back. But I really believe that something else is going to happen. And I really believe that my purpose is going to go more into coaching and health and well-being. And this is what I really want to do, 6 months down the line, Nick says to me after training, Tarik, I want to have a chat with you. I said, oh, what's up? And he said, I'm leaving. I'm going to Sussex. and we were living in Essex at the time.
Right.
And he goes, but I don't want to lose you as my coach. So I've spoken to the other directors and we're going to bring you up to London. That's how it started.
Ah.
Just like that, you know? So I wasn't looking for it. It found me because I was just focused on what I was doing, you know, and I remained with the purpose and then carried on.
It's great.
So I really believe, you know, I really believe in what you're saying about that. You know, it's very, very, very powerful, very important, you know, very important to do that, to believe and have lack of fear and just believe. But that comes with that spiritual, going back to that spiritual connection, that our life here is beyond just our egoic experience of self-satisfaction and achieving.
It's not just about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not about achieving
bigger thing out there.
Yeah.
We're all working towards it or walking towards it.
Exactly.
It's hard to explain to people who are kind of not really into this kind of mindset or this kind of way of thinking.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because their path in this is to also accept other people's opinions. Yeah. It's about, the key is not to enforce this opinion on others. That's because that's what people sometimes do. They enforce their own belief systems onto others. I'm very much, look, I'm just sharing my life experience with you. And for some people, they might resonate with that, like with yours, they might resonate with that. And for others, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If they judge it, obviously, their path is to learn not to be judgmental and be more accepting. And that's all they need to do for there to be a union between the different opinions and different thoughts and ideas in life. That's all that needs to happen, is that I respect your opinion, Kevin. And you say, Tarik, I respect your opinion. They may differ, but I really respect your opinion. That's your personal experience. And the interest in your experience, the interest in my experience, is all that needs to happen for that amalgamation to happen between two people. And if that happens on a mass scale, it's beautiful. It's amazing.
That does happen. Obviously, I mean, why were you when we first met, why were you there in that place where we worked, and how I met you, how everything just comes in? I mean, this probably be easier with you. I mean, it'd be easier subject to talk with you. I know you've taken on a few, what would you call it? Apprentices, almost junior apprentices.
Yes.
Yeah. And they must have a certain energy about them for you to resonate and to help them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've and again, going back to the whole expectation, because when it comes to relationships, and I believe this in all relationships, there's some are seasonal, some are perennial. Some are there for a short period of time. You know, some are there for a whole season, which could be years, months, whatever that is, and some are there for you, forever. And so you find your life partner where you love them, and I love my wife. She's amazing. We've been with her 25 years. You know, so and we have 6 beautiful children. So that I know is a perennial relationship. So when it comes to any relationship, like you have a relationship with the people that you coach, that's a relationship. And that may be, again, short. Some people I've coached for, like Nick, 15 years. Okay, that carries on. Some people come and go. So the same with people that you have, as you say, apprentices. They're people who I felt I wanted to give an opportunity. Someone gave me an opportunity. Yeah. And it's like everything in life, when you have an abundance of energy, it's very important to keep the cycle of giving going. If you think about the planet gives us our entire life. Yeah. The sun feeds the planet. The universe feeds the sun. The cycle was never meant to end with humans, but sometimes we think that, well, are we meant to receive all of this? It's all for us. Yeah. No, you're meant to keep giving and continue the cycle of giving. It's a cycle. It's meant to continue. And so there's been 2. Now this is the 3rd one. You know, now Jamie, you know, obviously, and I think there's certain things there. I'm no expectation. I have I'm willing to share. I'm willing to give opportunities, but it's down to that person to make the most of it. And for some of the others, you know, like one of the others definitely didn't make didn't take advantage perhaps, or for him, it wasn't working for some reason. And so the relationship ended as a result of that. But I made sure it ended well, not badly. That's the key.
Do you feel that the universe will provide them a certain character in certain part in their life? I think the person that we're on about now needed you, but not the coach, Tarik. It needed the other side of Tarik.
Absolutely. Yeah. As I said to you, it's, for me, from the way I see coaching, I see it in a holistic sense. I'm not an expert on strength and conditioning, or I'm not an expert on meditation, or I'm not an expert on these things. I have knowledge that I've accrued from studies, from personal experience, but I've delved deep into the personal experience side of it, to a level that, because knowledge out of a book is knowledge. So people say, I've read 30 books in 30 days. I'm like, well, you read 30 books in 30 days, but you didn't study 30 books in 30 days. So you can take a book and you can study it like on a deep level, and read it and study it, make notes about it, read it again, use it as a reference, and explore with the practices in it, and then see what parts of it filter into your own life experience that you can then utilize and you resonate with and you grow from, that you can utilize to help others again. And you keep the cycle going, and then you have your own interpretation of it. So I'm very much about that. So yes, the people that come to me or around me, the same as with me around other people, is I will extract what I feel. I resonate with someone and I think, wow, that was great. What you just said or what you just did really resonates with me. I'm going to explore that, and I'm going to go and run away with that and play around with it and see. Like someone teaches you an exercise, or I modify the exercises slightly to make, because I feel that they've been used, there's been this narrative of using an exercise in this way. Everyone's doing it this way. But actually, what if you do it this way and add this to it? Yeah. Why is that wrong? It's not wrong. It's right. Yeah, that's the whole freedom of flow and movement. And so the same, people come to me, yes, they want to learn something, particularly they feel a lot of the time with me, I think my gift and my purpose, that again, this is not from an egoic place, is a messenger, is that my whole life experience, people feel safe with me. People feel that sense that they feel the sense of safety and non-judgment that they're going to have with me, where they can then feel that they can be themselves, to explore themselves, to grow, to learn, whatever that is. It creates that environment where they can grow. So I think that's what I would offer someone. I think if they came and worked with me, that's the thing. Then after that, whatever their main interest is in, then they can carry on exploring that and learning that, but they're in a safe place to do it.
It's the universe will provide what you need and what they needed. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, it's a union. Remember, it's a union. It's a relation. I think that's where people create gurus and create these kind of things where actually, it's an exchange of energy. There's always an exchange of energy. The guru is receiving information at the time that they're relaying to that individual. That information is also for them. It's not just for the student. Yeah. So when I'm talking to you and I'm expressing something, or for someone is, that message that's coming through me is also for me, not just for them. So I'm benefiting at the same time. So I'm learning. So it's not just me. It's not me giving someone knowledge and information or help. It's actually the universe is providing information through me to that person, but I'm also benefiting from that information, whether it's reinforcement, whether it's new knowledge, whatever it may be.
We understand this passive knowledge, and it isn't to pump up our own ego. It isn't because we know much more than the next person. It is because we've experienced it. We just want the next person to pass that knowledge on, or just to help us to see where they fit into this universe.
Yeah, well, you happen to be at the point where someone comes to you. There's that right place at right time, and then the knowledge flows through you. You share it. It basically is just it's a mechanism that's part of just life. And we learn enough and we do things not just for our own self. I remember reading recently about how elephants will eat 16 to 18 hours a day. Yeah. 16 to 18 hours, elephants will continue eating. However, they will only absorb 12.5% approximately of what they eat.
Right.
The rest they eliminate. When it rains, the dung that they eliminate gets fertilized into the soil and feeds the rest of the ecosystem. So they're doing it naturally. They're, again, not from an ego perspective. They're not saying, "Oh, I'm feeding the rest of the rest of the ecosystem." The natural mechanism of selflessness is built in them. Yeah, that they're eating, and that's hard work. They're eating 16 to 18 hours, but only absorbing 12.5%, and the rest is there to feed the rest of the system around them. How amazing is that? Yeah, that's amazing. And so we need to think in a similar way, where if you're learning something new, how many people can benefit from what you're learning? If it's just only going to benefit you, is there really any real point in that? Yeah. I'm not saying don't do things for pleasure, do things for pleasure, but you can do things for pleasure, and at the same time, it enhances others' lives too. You know?
Yeah, especially now with this and during this lockdown, whatever I do or what I'm trying to explain, it is having a platform to express our feelings and our knowledge. And all the people that have come on here, I invited, told them beforehand, this is why we're doing it. It's exactly the same thing. It's a platform for us to get our message and our knowledge out there.
Absolutely.
If it resonate to just 2 other people on this entire planet, great. Now 2 people can just pass that knowledge we just talked about on this show and help somebody. And that's all. It's just passing the knowledge and passing that message on.
Yeah, and I think, with this whole social media world, which is something I've never actually explored. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. Yeah. But I don't have Instagram and do all these kind of things. Is that people have been judging this kind of world and using it, again, like anything else. It's a new toy. It's like this new, so people use it from an egoic place. So how many followers, or my kids have got Instagram and all this as well. How many followers and all this, and it's so superficial. It's not, again, people look at, all right, shall I watch this program? Right, how many followers? How many people have viewed it? Oh, not many, so I'm not going to watch it. It can't be good. That's the rating system, And again, that whole rating system is something that has been is almost been like
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Brian. It's been like something that's been just, I don't know, it's desensitizing, and it's disconnecting people in such a superficial way. It's turning people into very superficial beings. So I think it's important, but obviously, people filter through these things, and if you buy something on Amazon, do you look at the reviews?
Of course.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So we've been programmed. It doesn't mean that actually that item that's sitting there that's had no reviews, it could be the best item to buy. Yeah. But because it's been avoided, because no one has bought it, because everyone's buying the 5-star stuff. Yeah. They're not buying the. That's the elitism. That's the elitism that we're living under. That we think sometimes that we're against it, but are we not actually part of it and just feeding it more?
That's definitely true. I mean, we all get judged.
But it's how you interpret the judgment, Kevin. That's the key. And that goes back to what we were talking about before about epigenetics. How you interpret judgment is the most important thing, because that will affect your well-being. That's going to affect your energy. That's going to affect whether you're not going to be able to give anything else to anybody else. So if someone says, I don't think you're any good, or this show's rubbish, or that guy Tarik on there and he's terrible, whatever it is, if you take that badly and I take that badly, it's going to affect our energy, which is then going to fail the other people around us that need us as well. So again, understanding that judgments happen, just like the meditation, the thoughts. Don't get emotionally involved in the judgments.
Then this comes back to the show. If my reasoning for doing this show is to pass that knowledge, it doesn't matter how many people judge my show. If just one person watches this episode, and that one person gets something from it, that's already, I've already done my point. My point is to pass some sort of knowledge to the next person so they can help somebody else.
Absolutely.
One person. It's beyond me. It's beyond you. it's the universe. If the universe wants this show to be big and pass the knowledge on to more people, great. That's great.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, look, the practicality of that is that we live in a technological world that follows certain algorithms for expansion. Yeah. So people, if you look at London Real, you know, there's a process there of expansion that allowed Brian to expand his show to this level now that he's at, and he's had some great speakers on there. Yeah, he's had some great speakers, some great interesting people on there. You know, very interesting people on there. So I think there's an element of allowing the universe. Yeah. But what can I do with my practical physical experience to allow this also to happen? Yeah. You know, well, so
we've done our part today, and
yeah, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it, Kevin.
We have to do this more often because there's so much of a subject that mainstream fitness don't go into, and I know there's so much more we can talk about. I mean,
yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, fitness again. I'm very much about it, again, the expansion of the identity of this model of fitness. It's no good just to be physically fit, but emotionally, you know.
That's what I meant when I talked to you about fitness. There's certain guys and girls who come on the show. When I say fitness, I mean just your typical, what you were saying, you're lifting weights for an end goal. There's a certain side of it, but there's the side I want to talk to you, and I want your side of your interpretation of fitness and holistic. That doesn't get talked about in any enough at all.
No, exactly. You know, I think that's where I feel it is quite still unevolved in the world, is that people go to a gym.
Yeah.
And I think this is an opportunity to change this with the whole pandemic that's going on at the moment. Is that people now are at home. A lot of people don't have any equipment. Now they have to, the people that are so used to the gym, need the gym, are going, now their emotional and their spiritual and their psychological well-being has been spotlighted. Yeah. It's like, how am I going to cope? How am I going to do this? How am I going to, what can I do without the gym? Oh, they can go one way or the other. So it's, this experience will highlight and draw and expose areas that you need to work on and where your balances and imbalances are. And so I think that's why it's always important to look at things holistically, because you're never going to just, the body doesn't work as just one unit. You know, I always say to people, whatever exercise that you're doing, whether it's a squat or a bicep curl, or it's, wrist curls, even, it's a whole body exercise. The whole body is working in some way to support you to complete this biomechanical movement, whatever it may be. So the whole body, every exercise is a whole body exercise. That's the kind of thing I've fed everybody, you know, that I coach. And I want them to think that, because that is actually the case. And that's when you do that, it actually enhances the experience. It makes the lifting easier. Everything then works better, and you feel more fulfilled because you feel everything has come together to work to allow this to happen. And I think that's also, I do it in a way to get them to think like that, where everything is about teamwork. Everything is about you working together, togetherness, oneness, wholeness. And it's getting people to think more like that, rather than it's me, I'm an individual, I'm isolated from the world, and I'm in competition with the rest of the world. It's not like that. It's not like that.
It's definitely in. There's a message in there. People just need to find their own interpretation of what you just said.
Yes.
That's all. But I think we need to come to the end of the show. But before we do that, we do this on almost our show, because we're during a lockdown. And is there any food that you're missing? I'm not vegetarian, so we're not going to do the wings.
Well, I mean, because, you know, we're kind of like predominantly vegan here. And, we've become a master of making our own coffee now. Because coffee was the one. Because I love my oat milk latte. That's my thing. But between my wife and I, we've mastered how to make a really good oat milk latte now. So now that's good. I'm gonna. What am I missing anything? My wife's such a good cook as well. I'm not a good person to ask here because. You've got me because I literally cannot think of anything at all that I'm missing. Do you know, I can't actually.
That's great. That means your life is in balance. Your diet's in balance.
Yeah, I just can't think of anything.
Thinking something and not too literal on the other side.
I don't actually. I have to say, just on that, I don't miss anything except people. I want to see people and give them a big hug, and I'm a very personable that kind of person.
Yeah.
I miss people. But I don't miss anything else. I don't miss I need to go and stand in a bar, or I need to go to a restaurant, or I don't miss the gym. I don't miss I miss the dynamics of the people. It shows you that it's never the pub, it's the people in the pub, or the atmosphere in the pub. It's never the restaurant, it's the atmosphere and the people in the restaurant, the person you go with to the restaurant. It's always about the people. So it's actually not about the things. So my food is the connection and the physical connection with others. That's what I'd say I'm missing the most, which I know I can't.
That's all right though. It's the physical connection we're missing. That's good. I mean, we kind of wouldn't understand that your food side's very balanced, and
I'd say we're pretty much like that. We're pretty balanced. We eat really, really well. We have food boxes delivered in the sense of vegetables from the local area. So, we only eat food from, sort of like locally sourced from the farms around us. It all comes amazing. The smell and the aroma, there's no fertilizer. It's all organic. It's not chemical based. I mean, so it's really healthy. We feel really healthy. I'm out in the sun getting vitamin D3 every day. So I'm really, I don't feel deficient in anything. We're getting lots of rest. We're connecting as a family. I mean, look, I feel blessed.
Yeah.
I've got 3 kettlebells and a pull-up bar and resistance bands, and and furniture, and I'm having great workouts.
Yeah.
I'm getting creative with that.
That's it. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. That's all you need. You just need the people around you, and everything else falls into place.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I better let you go back to your father duties, and thanks for your time today. We'll have to do this again very soon.
Yeah, I'd love to. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much for doing this. Yeah.
Okay. All right, then.
Take care of yourself. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you.